All right, you've lost a lot of weight and now you want to shift the focus from losing more weight to building muscle, but you don't know what the differences are between how your training should look, how your nutrition should look. By the end of this video, I'm gonna give you everything that you need to be able to shift that focus and put on a significant amount of muscle mass. For those of you that are new here, my name is Trevor Lomax. I'm a registered dietitian and certified strength and conditioning specialist, and I'm here to help guys just like you put on muscle mass to achieve the body that makes them feel confident and show off all the hard work that they've been putting in the gym and in the kitchen. In my personal journey, I've put on over 50 pounds of muscle, taking me from a skinny, unconfident guy to who I am today, and I'm here to help you guys do the same. So through this video, my goal is to give you guys actionable advice that you can use to implement your own muscle growth journey and make it easy on you. And stick around to the end because I want to share with you guys the one factor that really defines all of the clients that I've worked with who are successful versus the ones who are unsuccessful. So going from weight loss to weight gain, what is the real issue that makes this actually difficult? The first thing is fear. It's scary. You just lost a lot of weight and you've probably already done a little bit of research on what it takes to build muscle, and maybe some of the things that you think you're gonna have to do are scary. Maybe that means eating a little bit more calories, a little bit more carbohydrates. Probably a lot of the things that you changed in order to lose weight may go back the other direction, and you are scared that you will too. But have no fear, we're gonna talk about exactly what works and how to adjust it so that you don't have to worry about those things. Maybe you think that you have to go through a structured bulk or even a dirty bulk in order to make muscle growth happen. And the biggest thing I see is that you might be nervous about what people are gonna say if you start putting on weight again, even if it is high quality muscle mass. Hey, so first thing that we need to do is block out the noise. Now you have to understand how marketing works. Marketing a lot of the time plays on fears. Even just scroll through the titles of videos, even on my own YouTube page or on others, and you will see that a lot of the titles and thumbnails prey on your fears. And that's because it works. Humans have a negativity bias, so marketing is going to skew that way. So anytime you see something that makes you feel scared or fearful, know that they are doing that on purpose. Now, I mentioned on my page, I do this too, and that's because it works. It gets people interested, which sucks because I would love to market to you guys in a more positive manner, but I need you guys to click on this so that you'll listen to what I have to say. And I promise you today that we're gonna talk about the things that work, and you shouldn't have to go and spend a whole ton of money in order to make this journey happen for you either. And one thing I wanna talk about is a lot of people will listen to information that is really high quality. And here's the thing, it's not sexy. It's not gonna be something that is gonna blow your mind. A lot of it is very basic stuff, but you may feel that this won't work for you. You may feel that your body is different, the way you operate is different. But I promise you, if you implement these things at the very bare minimum, even if this doesn't work for you, then you will find out what doesn't work, then we can adjust and find what works for you specifically. But I promise that this formula I've used with hundreds of clients in order to build muscle. And I guarantee that a lot of these parts of this will work for you, and more of the individual component will really just come down to specific habits that we'll talk about later. One thing we have to consider is tracking progress. It is so important to track your progress, because how do you know if you are making the change that you want to if you're not tracking your progress? And when it comes to building muscle, we need to track progress a little bit more specifically than weight loss. Weight loss can be done with just a scale because we're just looking for one major trend. Where's your weight going? But when it comes to building muscle, we have to look at how much you're gaining and what are you gaining. If we start this process and you're gaining a lot of fat, something in our process is wrong. We want to make sure that what you're gaining is mostly muscle mass as we continue along this journey, and then we can confirm that what we're doing is right. If not, we got to make some changes. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. The gold standard would be if you can access a DEXA or an InBody. Sometimes you can search in your town, especially if you live in a bigger city, and you can find a service that you can do these at. DEXA, maybe you'd have to pay for. InBody, sometimes you have to pay for it, maybe like a local gym, charge like 20, 25 bucks. But you could also potentially go to a supplement store. Some supplement stores will let you walk in and do these for free because they're trying to sell you supplements. You typically don't have to buy anything to actually use it. and they will let you use it to check your body composition. If you can't do that, then there are some other things that could be good enough. One of these could be a BIA scale. So it's a little scale with the metal pads on it that will help determine your body fat percentage. If you don't have that, then you can use things like progress pictures. You can get just a regular body tape that they would use for tailoring, for example, and use that to measure circumferences of different body parts. That way you can see how your body's changing over time. And that can help us determine that depending on where that circumference is changing, that you're gaining muscle and not necessarily fat. And that last piece could be monitoring your strength. After the first couple of months, where a lot of strength gains are neural adaptations, meaning you're just getting better at lifting per se, a lot of those strength gains are going to be attributed to more muscle mass, which could be an okay proxy to see if we're actually gaining that. So going off of that, it's important to track your workouts. We're gonna talk a lot about tracking because I am very data driven. I am not here to worry about your feelings. I'm here to worry about what the data says. So tracking your workouts, tracking your nutrition, this is gonna be the input data that we're seeking out. Then when we get the output data, which is your body composition, then we can determine if our methods need to be adjusted in order to achieve your goal. Now, this is the triad. This is going to be the lifeblood of any kind of health or body composition transformation. There are three super important things, and all of them need to be locked in order to achieve your goal to the greatest degree. That doesn't mean that everything needs to be perfect, but the three things that we want to focus on are training, nutrition, and sleep. If all of these three things are dialed in, you're going to see the most amount of progress. And we're going to talk about each of these three things today. Starting mostly with nutrition, we'll talk a little bit about training, and we're gonna talk about sleep as well. So the first thing is your calorie intake. This is the most important aspect because this is what everything else is going to play off of. Now, there's a couple different strategies here depending on what your current body fat percentage is. If you have lost a lot of weight, but you're still floating above that 10 to 12% mark, so maybe your body fat is 20% or 18% or wherever you currently fall, you are gonna be okay just being at maintenance. You'll probably be able to put on a solid amount of muscle mass in this range. So the maintenance calories, meaning the amount of energy that you burn through living and all your activities combined in the day. You may have heard this called your total daily energy expenditure. Now, if you just lost a lot of weight and you are really, really lean, you have very little body fat, so under that 10 to 12% range, then you are probably gonna wanna be in a surplus, meaning you wanna be eating more calories than you are currently using through just living and all your activity. The important thing to realize is this doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat. We're always going to test it, then adjust it, test it, and adjust it. And we'll have to adjust it anyway as your body weight, your muscle mass changes and we get more data back. So just understand it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just find somewhere to start and then we'll get moving. I've included a link on this slide that is the calculator. It's very basic, but it's the one I use to initially assess my clients' calorie needs. And then again, we adjust it later on, so it's a good place to start. When you go to this website, all you have to do is enter in some basic information, your age, height, weight, and activity level. If you know your body fat percentage from doing either a DEXA and InBody or something more specific, then you can use that and you can go into the advanced settings and change that, and that'll give you a little bit more dialed in of a number. But no stress if you can't. The regular equation is pretty decent. Now, if you click on the button that says show your calories for weight gain under where the calories for weight loss appear, then you'll see some numbers. The important thing to remember is that our goal is to go slow, okay? Slow and steady muscle growth is much better because in the end, we will add a lot less fat mass when we do it slow. So we're gonna go into a slight surplus if that's our goal, or again, maintenance if you fall into that range. The next aspect of this is macronutrients. So the three major macronutrients that we're focusing on are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And our distribution between these three is really how we focus in on making sure that what we're gaining is mostly muscle, and we provide our body the energy that it requires in order to go through this process. Now, one thing we have to do is change our body weight into kilograms for these numbers because that's how the recommendations are. So divide your weight in pounds by 2.2, and then you're gonna get your your weight in kilograms. So for protein, this is probably lower than what you used in order to lose weight. And that's because since we have additional calories, we don't necessarily need as much protein in order to be able to maintain the muscle mass that we needed to maintain while we were losing weight. So our protein can be a little bit lower because we don't have to worry about our body using up our muscle mass for an energy source. Our fats are probably gonna lie between 25 and 35% of our total daily calories. So once you have your calorie number, multiply that by 25 to 35%, and that'll be a range that you can sit in. I typically like to sit between 25 and 30%, but it really depends on your preference and what kind of proteins you're gonna be consuming in order to hit your protein intake and how much fat they have. Ideally, we're eating lean sources of protein, but some people are gonna have a preference to some things that may increase the fat, such as soy foods that do have a little bit of extra fat with them, although they are healthy fats. So that way we can make sure that we're in a good calorie range. All of the rest is gonna be allocated to carbohydrates. And I know this may be scary, especially if you cut out a lot of carbohydrates in order to lose fat. But the important part is that we wanna fuel really, really good workouts. If we're fueling really, really good workouts, we're gonna stimulate the most muscle growth that we possibly can, and you're gonna see the best results. Making sure that these are high quality sources of carbohydrates is going to edge out any of that fear. And that leads us to the next part, which is making sure that you're getting 38 grams of fiber per day. That is the recommendation for men. And if we're eating high quality sources of carbohydrates, such as whole grains, oats, beans, potatoes, things that have a lot of fiber, it'll be very easy to hit this number, and we'll feel good about our carbohydrate choices as well. When we look at our training, the major difference between weight loss and gaining muscle is what our focus is. When our focus is for weight loss or fat loss, we really just want to be constantly burning calories. So a lot of your training, hopefully, looked like a lot of circuits, a lot of continuous activity, maybe some high intensity interval training, something where you're moving constantly, getting that calorie burn in, but still stimulating some muscle growth. So there's probably weights incorporated in that, probably some cardio or just other kinds of constant movement like walking involved in that process. When it comes to building muscle, our focus should be volume and making sure that we are stressing our muscles through a complete range of motion. This is where we're getting the most stimulus for muscle growth. If you're not familiar with volume, what it is the amount of sets you do of an exercise multiplied by the amount of reps multiplied by the weight you're using. I want to emphasize that you don't need to increase all of these every single time you work out. That's going to lead to a lot of breakdown of your body. Your joints are going to hurt. It's going to not feel great. But you can use these factors interchangeably by maybe increasing sets one day, or maybe the other day you're increasing weight, or maybe one day you're increasing reps, just to make sure that total number of volume is increasing over time. And then you may take a deload or bring it back down for a period of time to rest your body before starting that process over again and slowly scaling it up so that you can continue that muscle growth. A lot of people get caught up in what that training actually looks like early on. I promise you, it's not that big of a deal. Start with something pretty generic. Maybe it's with 3 sets of 8 reps on a weight that is pretty challenging for you. As you go farther and farther, you're gonna be able to individualize this more and more. You'll find out what rep ranges work best for different muscle groups, and you'll start to determine how that feels. How does it feel in order to get a really good set in, or an entire workout that really gives you a good pump in a certain muscle group or a collection of muscle groups, and how you're gonna split those days throughout the week. I do recommend between 3 and 5 days of workouts per week, and the less amount of days, then the more muscle groups you have to do each day. If you work out more days, then you'll have more freedom splitting it up throughout the week so that you can have some more rest for each muscle group on each day. For example, if you're only working out 3 days in a week, you probably should be doing full body every single day. If you're doing 5 days, then maybe you can do chest twice in the week, split up amongst those days. You can do back, legs, etc., all split up, but making sure you're doing at least 2 times per week at each muscle group. And another important fact is to switch it up every 4 to 8 weeks. Too many people are switching this up too frequently. They think every day they go into the gym, they need to be doing something different and confusing the muscle. That's not really how it works. Do a progression over time. So for example, let's say we're doing bench press. Bench press in week 1 may look like 3 sets of 8. And then in week 2, maybe it's 3 sets of 10. The following week, 3 sets of 12. The last week, maybe it's 4 sets of 10. So that way we're gradually increasing the volume over a set period of time. Then when we're starting to feel run down or like maybe it's not working as well, then we take a little bit of a rest. So maybe we take a week where we deload and then we jump back into it and start a different progression. Maybe after that, we're starting and working in lower rep ranges with higher weight. Or maybe we're working in much higher rep ranges, like starting at 15 reps, but it's lower weight. And this is where we can get a lot of the excitement into lifting, where we can do drop sets or other cool things that just make training really fun. And I think this is one of the big reasons why people love bodybuilding type workouts, is because there's so much variety that you can bake into these that they can get really exciting and never really get boring. The reality is that we could talk about training all day long and all the specifics of how we can make this fun, exciting, and effective, but we would be here all day. So just remember, all we need to do is start with something and we can learn more and more about our bodies as we go and train hard. Next, let's talk about sleep, because although training is important, nutrition is important, where muscle building really happens is while we're sleeping. If we're not getting into those deeper stages, stage 3 and 4 of sleep, then we are not going to be able to build muscle and recover appropriately for how intense these workouts are going to be in order to build muscle. Now, you've probably heard this before, but we should be aiming between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night, including the weekends. And ideally, we're not moving our weekend sleeping times more than an hour from our typical weekday. But I understand sometimes that's easier said than done. Now, I have a lot of tips on here, and I'm not gonna go through all of them because we'll be here a long time, but screenshot this, look through them, and determine where are you not hitting these things. Some of these things include the temperature at which you sleep. Some of them include light or the methods in which you are sleeping in order to maximize the quality of your sleep every single night. If we can maximize our sleep, then not only are we getting great muscle growth, but we're probably gonna feel more rested during the day, which will allow us to train a little bit harder and also make sure we can do all of the things that we need to do in order to keep up with our nutrition, which may be things like meal prepping or something else like that. Now, real quick, because I said I was gonna give you absolutely everything, here's some supplementation that I do like. Other than this, the only thing that's not listed on here is probably caffeine, which can be effective to help you work out. It reduces the sensation of pain and increases the perception of energy, which does improve workouts and is the most important ingredient that comes into pre-workouts. So maybe instead of taking a pre-workout, you take a very bare bones pre-workout that has just the things that actually do something, or you just take some caffeine, maybe some black coffee or a low caffeine energy drink that will help you in the gym. But these are the things that are gonna help you just in general. The first being fish oils. As you work out and do muscle building workouts, you're gonna notice that your joints are hurting a little bit, and that's okay. A little bit of pain is fine, but making sure that you're taking fish oils to reduce inflammation will help you get through this, and also just stay on top of your body. Make sure that you're taking care of it. If you need to go to physical therapy, you go and seek that out early, rather than waiting till something is really, really hurting to the point that you can't even use that muscle group. I'm also gonna include in here vitamin D, because many of us don't get outside enough. And vitamin D is really, really important in the muscle building process. If your vitamin D is too low, it may be restricting how much muscle you can build, and is also putting you at a greater risk for injury. Magnesium is one of my favorite, because even the food that we eat that has a lot of magnesium may be devoid of magnesium because our soil is not very potent in magnesium because of agricultural practices. So taking a magnesium supplement can help you sleep better, which again, I said is so important when it comes to muscle building. And the last one here is creatine. You may have heard of this. You may have a little bit of fear because you may have heard that it comes with a little bit of weight gain, but don't worry. This is water that's sitting in your muscles and is what we call hydration. It's a great thing, and it helps so much with strength and power, and is super important for recovery. That will help you feel better earlier so you can get back into the gym and lifting well. A couple additional tips I want to talk about really quickly before we wrap it up is things that are just going to help you. Now, when it comes to nutrition, there's two things that I really like to do. Either meal prepping, making sure that you have those meals prepared for whatever comes up throughout the week. We are adults with busy lives, so we need to make sure we have a way that we can get it in. And actually, although meal prepping tends to take a lot of time the day you do it, It's gonna save you a lot of time and headaches throughout the week, stressing and not hitting your goals. So I do think that meal prepping is worthwhile. And finding something that you can meal prep quickly is very easy. And there's a ton of resources online to help you do this. Or you could do something that I like to call bulk cooking. So when you're already cooking dinner or lunch or breakfast or whatever, you can just make an extra serving or 2 or 3, and that way you're essentially meal prepping for additional meals in the week without having to do a whole nother set of dishes and all the things that actually take some time. Another useful tip can be to pre-track. So especially if you're gonna go out on the weekends and go out to a restaurant or go out with some friends, it's okay to do those things, and those things should be baked into your life, because in reality, having a social life is very healthy for you as well, and I want you to partake in that. So if you look at what you're gonna have at that restaurant ahead of time and you log it into your tracking app, you can know that it fits and then adjust the rest of your day around that meal, so that way you're still hitting your goals. At the end of the day, everything should come back to sustainability. Am I able to sustain this for a long period of time? Some of it won't be sustainable, like the training, right? You can't sustain super high intensity training all the time, but that's why we add in things like deloads. Your nutrition, your sleep, those practices should be very sustainable. There are gonna be days where it just does not happen because life is a real thing. But most of the days, you should have a routine that allows you to get it in, be satisfied with it, enjoy it, and before you know it, you'll be at your goals. Now let's talk about that last tip that I said is really the make or break between all of my clients who have been successful and those who haven't. It comes down to identity. You have to shift your identity of who you are before you're actually going to put into practice the things that you need to do in order to make this change. It probably already happened if you're watching this video when it comes to weight loss. You've probably had to shift who you are and how you look at yourself in order to do the things that it took in order to lose weight. Now you need to shift them again in order to be somebody who's going to build muscle. So what are those habits that you need to add in? How do you identify yourself when it comes to your training, when it comes to your sleep, when it comes to your friendships and those you surround yourself with? If you identify as somebody who is going to make this change, then you're going to be able to actually complete it. This could be an entire video on itself, so we won't get too in depth, but just know that how you think and talk to yourself is one of the major players in how likely you are to succeed. I want to thank you guys for sticking it out through this whole video. And if you made it this far, then I hope you got some value out of it and you are willing to subscribe and like this video, because it does help this get out to more people like yourself who are really wanting to make a change. And while you're here, why not watch this next video that YouTube thinks is the best option for you? And I'll see you over there.